is Terry Bradshaw, quarterback, Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's 7:15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
Monday, March 8th, 1976, one of the greatest pure shooters in NBA history on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Past Our Prime podcast. Your three hosts are all here, Mark Hoffman, Bill Mahoney. I'm Scott Johnston. And Mark, oh boy, could this guy shoot the lights out or what? I'm talking about Bob McAdoo.
I saw Bob McAdoo play in 72, his rookie year with the Braves when they played the Lakers at the Forum, man. And I was a big fan from the start. And he had that really distinctive jump shot, too. I think he held the ball like over his head, a little kind of like Keith Wilkes, Jamal Wilkes would shoot it. It was a very distinctive style facing forward towards the basket. Man, could he score.
Billy, he had his best years in Buffalo, was MVP the year prior to this. But then after he bounced around after being traded a few times, Mitch Kupchak got hurt and he came to LA, was a vital piece off the bench for the Lakers, winning 2 NBA championships with those Showtime LA teams.
Yeah, and people forget that he was runner-up MVP 2 years as well when he was with Buffalo. So getting to the Lakers at the point that he did, man, that changed the whole dynamic for the second team, which most people didn't expect that. They thought he would start, but they brought him off the bench sort of, minutes-wise was odd, but he ended up in the playoffs becoming the guy they went to. He was just absolutely amazing, and just always remember sitting at the El Torito, and you'd hear Bob McAdoo would make a basket, and the guy would go, McAdoo! It was just so great. He was such a great addition to the Lakers with their stars they already had.
He was one of those first guys I remember thinking, him and Vinnie Johnson, where I was like, it really doesn't matter who starts the game. It matters who's ending the game.
Yeah. Yeah, the microwave.
And those guys were on the court when those minutes mattered most in their playoff teams. So yeah, the great Bob McAdoo will be talking with us in just a bit. I always get excited, nervous, jacked up, whatever you want to call it, when one of the all-time greats, and McAdoo is just that, a Hall of Famer and a member of the NBA's 75th anniversary team, joins us. So looking forward to that. But first up, Billy, scorecard, start us off.
This is about a disc called, the story was called Deep Freeze. They're talking about the Olympic-sized 400-meter speed skating oval in West Allis, Wisconsin, where Sheila Young, Peter Miller, and others trained. It's in jeopardy of being closed. They're doing everything they can to save it. They're charging adults $1. They're doing 75 cents for kids. But public skating was down because it was warm in 1976 out there, so they can't make any money. And the thing about this rink was 6 of America's 10 medals at Innsbruck came from skaters who trained at this nice speeding skate or this speed skating building. But it turned out they had to close it either way. They couldn't get enough money to keep it open. But today, that West Allis Speed Skating Club has merged with the Badgers to become the Wisconsin Speed Skating Club. The rink that was there is no longer there, but the legend still lives on.
Wow. So just imagine that now money is just not an issue in a lot of these things. And they're like probably out like in front of Walmart selling Girl Scout cookies to raise money for keeping it. And like you said, 6 out of 10 medal winners. That's amazing. Wow.
And the thing is, it's if you just look at the price, the construction cost to fix it was $500,000, additional improvements was $363, and the annual debt was $44. Nowadays, with the way they're building, stadiums and rinks that are multi-million dollars, this seems like chump change, but they just couldn't come up with the money.
Yeah, nowadays they're like, I had $1 million in my pocket. I don't know what I did with that.
And then what they would do is they would probably push those Olympians that skated there, and then they'd sell the naming rights.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, and the Olympics has changed so much since 76. I mean, it's such a big money, thing. And people didn't even know the athletes. It's funny because, last week we had Professor Early on the show. And remember, he talked about the Mount Everest of athletes, and he had Wilma Rudolph on that.
Yeah.
So there was an old episode to Tell the Truth. and they were trying to identify, this is after she won the 3 golds in the 1960 Olympics, which of the 3 people was actually Wilma Rudolph. Nobody, the judges didn't know because the athletes weren't publicized. Their faces weren't splattered all over the place as they are today.
I would think more people know a Wilma from the Flintstones now.
Probably. And what a
sadly.
great athlete.
Yep.
Right. And what a great athlete. But again, no one had a clue which one she was on the panel. Oh, no, I take that back. Johnny Carson was on the panel. This is before he had the Tonight Show. And he said, you know what? I know who Wilma is because I saw her from the Olympics, or I did something with her. So he had to excuse himself. But the other 3 panelists, no clue.
Well, that also shows you the advent of television and what it did to make people more known worldwide. So,
right.
Hey, speaking of deep freeze, Mark, what you got?
Oh, I got the sky's the limit. And I'm the master of the puns, but Sports Illustrated has just topped me on this one. They have the sky's the limit because they're talking about people climbing Mount Everest. And in 1953, so just 23 years before this issue came out, the first men climbed to the top of Mount Everest. And they said that they didn't realize how much money they were saving by getting there before everyone else did, because it's a tourist attraction now. He says that if you want to do an expedition from Kathmandu to the top, the Nepal is charging $800 to $1,200 a person. And that was a hell of a lot back then. And of course, their pun was, that's a real price hike. But today, I think it would cost, between $40,000 and $100,000 to do that per person.
Oh, and I saw somewhere that like VIP trips are over $200,000.
Are they really?
Yeah. Is that crazy? And then
listen, I just wonder with a VIP trip. I mean, there's only certain ways you can get up to the top.
Yes.
So what's is someone carrying you? I mean, what's the
I mean, I don't. You probably have more helpers. They do all the stuff that you don't want to do, setting up the tents, or I don't know. Yeah. Maybe there's a Benihana halfway up.
Yeah, it might be, exactly.
They have Wi-Fi set up for you inside, give you some lemonade.
But now they say going up and down there's only one way to go, I believe.
Yeah.
And they say it's littered with trash and human remains. And it's just like a conveyor belt up and down and up and down. I've never gotten it. It seems insane to me. I don't have that much sympathy for people that die doing that. You're not meant to climb that thing.
Well, you have to know what you're getting into when you do it. So
I think the last stat was that at least 344 people had died climbing it, and 200 of those, the bodies just are where they died. Basically.
Yeah, they can't get them down.
Right, you walk up or down, and you see the dead body frozen.
Horrible.
But not decomposed, because
there's our first death of the issue.
We got more coming.
Back when quotes were bold, they said it. Back when quotes were bold, they said it.
They said it, Billy.
John McKay, he's now the coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, on operating without players during the delayed allocation draft. We all had swivel chairs, he said. We look at one wall for a while, then turn and look at another. Nothing to do. Nothing to do.
He can have one every week.
That's right.
Judge Aaron Brown of Toronto ruling that Dan Maloney of the Detroit Red Wings must stand trial on assault charges resulting from an on-ice fight. He said it is both good law and good sense that the force and effect of the criminal law should apply equally and evenly inside and outside the sporting arena. So here's what happened. November 5th, 1975, at Maple Leaf Gardens, Maloney attacked,
Brian Glennie,
resulting in a concussion for Glennie and a 5-minute major penalty for Maloney. He was charged with assault, making him the third NHL player to face such charges, but the first to go to trial, which occurred in 1976 in Toronto. It lasted several days with a jury of 8 women and 4 men. They acquitted Maloney after 9 hours of deliberation. So, we take for granted that these violent sports, that we won't have these kind of litigation. But there was a time 50 years ago where these things were being judged in a court of law, and they basically said what happens on the ice stays on the ice.
Well, Dan Maloney was punching him when he was knocked out on the ice.
Yeah.
And that was the thing about it. He broke his cheekbone, gave him a concussion. Glennie had to have facial surgery. It was a little bit over the top, but it's also hockey in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I'm not excusing the behavior whatsoever, but I'm just saying that they basically
Yeah.
said we're not going to get that. That's a slippery slope.
Yep.
We have a big ice theme going on here in the show.
We do. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But
Yeah.
Brian Glennie didn't die, so we're good on that.
Well, we're going to get rid of that ice theme real quick and get on a big
No, we're
boat.
not.
Reaching and retching to Nassau. Bill, this was a treacherous yacht race.
It was. It was with 79 yachts in the Southern Ocean Racing Conference. Now, there was one boat, Mary E. the second. She sank in 310 fathoms. Now, I know I'm not gonna. I know you guys know your fathoms. That's 1,800 feet. But the J&B came up and rescued the crew from Mary E. the second. They are now carrying 14 extra men on their boat. Below deck, there were soaked sea bags, seasick sailors, and barely room to crawl. So there was reaching and retching across the finish line, which is actually the name of the article. And guess who won? The J&B. They took first place.
How many fathoms?
At 310.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't
I thought the
fathom
same
that.
thing. They got nothing going.
I'm looking at the picture here and the guys on the boat, and they all look like they're ready to heave. I mean,
Okay,
it's
no,
just-
Mark, look at the first picture.
yes.
It looks like there's a guy in orange sitting, like the boat that's sort of tipping to the right, I think. He's sitting on the edge of the boat. It looks like he's talking to the guy next to him, like about fantasy league or something. He doesn't look nervous. He's like, yeah, you know, we're sitting there. But no, people died and one boat sank. And welcome to the Southern Ocean Racing Conference.
I mean, this boat is on such a steep angle. I mean, I went on a fishing trip once, and I got nauseous, and it wasn't calm water. So I can only imagine what I do on this boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to imagine that.
Don't imagine it. Get
There'll
out of
be a
the
lot of
way.
retching.
Mark's about to blow.
After starting the issue off with a little sailing, let's get to the horse racing. He left them all in the dirt. Mark, this was all leading up to the Derby in a couple months.
That's right. Honest Pleasure, was really on a hot streak. Wins the Flamingo Stakes by 11 lengths, won the Florida Derby, the Bluegrass Stakes, was really on a roll. But the horse had a rival, Bold Forbes, and Bold Forbes would end up having the last lap because Bold Forbes beat Honest Pleasure at the Kentucky Derby. But heading into the Derby, Honest Pleasure was really, I was going to say something here, but I don't think I should. Oh, I'll say it this way. That horse was a sure pleasure.
Ah, she
I was going to go another direction if you can figure it out, but
There was a happy ending of this race either way. What?
See, dirty minds think alike.
My God. Can't even say that anymore.
Pleasure for two. Ho and Hum play this palace. A mock survey says 25% of humanity loves these made-for-TV tennis challenge matches. 23% hate them, and 30% couldn't care less. And after Jimmy Connors beat the tar out of Manuel Orantes, listen to this, 6-2, 6-1, 6-love in Vegas, I'm thinking the 30% or of couldn't care less, or 23% that hate them, those numbers might go up a bit, Bill. This was not a close match.
No, I mean Connors was dominant over him, which he probably would have been in the U.S. Open the past year when Orantes upset him. But Orantes changed his style then. But this time he tried to change his styles and change his style, and Connors said, "No, you're done." But my favorite part of the article was the fact that Connors and his former manager, Bill Reardon, are now feuding. They used to be great pals and great business partners. Connors says, Reardon used me like a football in his cause. We have no future together. Reardon came back to say, my credibility was damaged when he got out of shape. It's a mother problem. Then Connors, forgetting about Reardon, talked about himself. This is quoting him. I've been a pussy on the court. I need to come out mean. When I hold energy inside, my hands start shaking. I need a release. So beating Orantes was one. Ripping on his former manager, Bill Reardon, had to feel better as the other.
Maybe that's what made him such a great tennis player. Is he just let his emotions out. He didn't hold them in. He wore his emotions on his sleeve.
But that actually works for a lot of people, not just in sports, but in life. If you get to be yourself, so to speak, you're more comfortable when you're doing stuff.
That's true. And to hell with what other people think.
Yes.
And I want to thank both Bill and Jimmy for giving me something to bleep out. So that's perfect.
Sorry about that.
Once again, we will um, let the dirty minds win out on this one.
Yes,
But
I just quoted him. I didn't make the word up.
Nope. That's you just
But
if you said it just because you wanted to and weren't such a pussy, then
Yeah, exactly.
it would have
But
been much better.
but I don't feel bad for Arantes. He says, "Hey, you know what? You can kick my ASS, in this tournament, but I beat you at the U.S. Open, and I got that
Yeah.
major."
Can't take that away from him. No chance. Shoot if you must, and I must. Bob McAdoo piled up awards early, Rookie of the Year, 2 scoring titles, MVP honors, turned Buffalo into a contender while averaging monster numbers. I think I read somewhere he's the last guy to average 30 points and 15 rebounds in a season. That is one thing about McAdoo that I don't think I ever realized was he was a great rebounder. He's a 6'10" guy. His game now would be just perfect for what the NBA wants. Redefined positions with his long range shooting, quick release. As Kareem Abdul-Jabbar said, nobody takes it from where McAdoo does and hits. And Mark, he had a great shot, but like you mentioned, a little bit unorthodox.
Well, if anyone can get a hold of this Sports Illustrated issue and look at the picture on the cover of the article, he is shooting the ball over Tom Burleson, who's a 7-footer, and he's holding the basketball really high, like his arms are extended almost straight up, and the ball is at the top of his hands. So even a 7-footer cannot get to that ball because the release is just so high. But the thing I found fascinating about the picture is it shows 2 basketball teams that don't exist anymore, the Buffalo Braves and the Seattle Sonics.
Wow.
Which is really sad.
But Billy, 1982, McAdoo is far removed from his great days in Buffalo. He's bounced around for some reason. I don't even know really why.
Yeah.
I know he had an injury, and Jerry West is like, this guy is the missing key to my Lakers team, and makes a trade that I know you just loved back in.
Yeah, I did. He was one of my favorite players back when he was with Buffalo. But the thing that McAdoo did that a lot of guys can't do nowadays, or at least most, he accepted the coming off the bench role. A guy like him nowadays might bitch and moan about it. But the thing is McAdoo was behind Mark Landsberger, or Mark Landsberger started over him. And I loved Landsberger at the time, and Kurt Rambis and Jim Brewer. McAdoo just sat back and said, I'll be ready when you call on me. And they did call on him for a few minutes in the regular season. But like I said earlier, in the playoffs, that's when he showed up. But it just goes to show how great an executive Jerry West was. That McAdoo was, I think that was his 4th team. What do you got? Buffalo, Knicks, Nets, and Detroit. So his 5th team. And he ended up resurrecting him. And McAdoo was a main reason why the Lakers were able to win 2 championships.
Yeah, he was an integral part. And like you said, it's one thing if you're coming off the bench and the guy in front of you,
Yes,
Dennis Rodman, or some sort of like key part to the team, but the guys in front of him were definitely role players. And for him to kind of like suck up his ego, when we're talking about one of the all-time greats,
a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. And
first ballot.
And then just kind of come in and give them, it really is one of the first times where, like, I think Pat Riley and West were probably thinking, let's limit his minutes. He's a little bit older, and we'd rather get 18 to 20 great minutes out of him than 32 minutes and a possible injury. And it worked perfectly.
But they've been great, and I know we'll never get that, but it'd be neat to talk to Pat. Fun to ask him a question, Pat Riley, about Bob McAdoo. Because that was at that time a surprising decision, because McAdoo was still, at least by reputation, a great scorer.
Off the court, he was quirky and frugal, fiercely proud of North Carolina, driven by one belief: nobody was better, even if, quote, ain't nobody know that. So he was extremely confident, and like you said, reason to be. He was a 2-time runner-up to MVP and then the MVP. If he didn't play in Buffalo, Mark, if he played in LA, New York, one of those major cities back then, this guy would have been huge.
Oh, he absolutely would have been a star. I mean, he was a star, but he was just playing in a small market in Buffalo. Again, and again, it's where you go, opportunity. By him going to Buffalo to begin his career, he was given the keys to the team kind of, and he was able to shine right away. Bob comes in and he was talented. He would have probably started on any team anyway, but he was given even more opportunity. They were dependent on him.
He avoided drinking and smoking. He kept early hours. He kind of treated his body as if it was a temple, treated basketball like a craft. He had intense discipline, but outside the gym, he lived a cautious small town accountant life, trapped in a 30-point scorer's body. He was the smoothest scorer of the mid 70s, an MVP who could get a bucket from anywhere on the floor, from lighting it up with the Buffalo Braves to winning titles with the LA Lakers Showtime teams. Bob McAdoo defined effortless offense in his era, and today the Hall of Famer and two-time NBA champion is joining us right here on Past Our Prime from his home in Boca Raton, where he's nice and toasty. Hello, Bob. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. I'm tired and I'm a little chilly, but hey, I'm upright at 74 years old. I'm good.
You're looking good. You got the energy of a 24-year-old, which is when
I
you were on the
would.
cover of Sports Illustrated 50 years ago. There you are on the cover of SI, back when that magazine really defined what was going on in the world of sports. The week before, Muhammad Ali's on the cover, and now there you are. Think about that for a second. Muhammad Ali and then Bob McAdoo. What do you remember about being on the cover of SI?
I I remember being so happy because the players now they don't realize how big Sports Illustrated and being on the cover was. I wanted to be on that cover so bad one day because I had a subscription, and when I got it, I was always looking at the athletes on it, and they were always great athletes that were playing in the States, and I wanted to be on that cover, and I I really couldn't understand why it took so long because I won 3 scoring championships, and I was kind of playing in the wilderness in Buffalo, and I thought, well, maybe they I think they had me on the inside, but never a cover shot. But I guess this year 75, I was doing so much. I was averaging 35 a game, 15 rebounds. I guess it was too much for them to pass up, and they gave me a shot. But I was so happy when I got that shot on Sports Illustrated cover.
Yeah, I think the wilderness of Buffalo may have played a role in that.
Yeah, I know if I was in New York or LA, I'd have made that cover a lot quicker.
Absolutely. When you think back to winning the 75 MVP with the Buffalo Braves, what stands out the most for you? Was it the numbers or just the grind, just doing it every day in, day out? Unlike the players of today, you guys didn't really take games off back then.
No, we had never heard of load management. It's like even some of the older players that I play with now, they say, Bob, this load management is kind of ridiculous. Uh, because you start thinking about the fans, it's like if somebody comes from a long distance to see the star player and you holding them out because they need rest. We never even thought about that back in the day. And uh, just the changes that they've made in the game since we have been in. We used to have, we flew on commercial flights. Uh, we might have 3 games in a row. These guys, they don't fly commercial. They have their private jets. They never play 3 games in a row. No load management. Uh, when I was coaching and scouting, I saw the way they treat. These guys don't even have to spend their per diem checks. They got chefs on the road, chefs at home. It's a totally different beast out there right now.
Now, I want to ask, coming from someone that grew up in Southern California, teeny little town. The Buffalo Braves were one of my favorite teams growing up because of you, because of John Shumate, because of Ernie DiGregorio.
Yeah.
What was it like playing for the Braves back in those days?
It was fun for me because remember I left North Carolina after my junior year, and all I wanted to do, I wanted to stay in the gym. I wanted to play. When you're young, you don't know if you're going to play a lot for a team. It's not like now, a first round pick, first, second pick, they're automatically going to play. I had an old school coach in Jack Ramsey, and I don't think he believed in starting rookies, but my time came. Our all-star power forward Bob Kaufman got hurt. I don't know if you remember Bob Kaufman in Buffalo. He got hurt, and he inserted me into the lineup in December, I think it was. I wasn't even in the conversation for Rookie of the Year, but because of his injury and him inserting me, and I'm starting to play 35 to 40 minutes, my production went off the chart. I ended up getting Rookie of the Year, and the cold weather that we talked about, it didn't bother me. I mean, even though it was something new, I was a country boy from North Carolina. We had a change of seasons in North Carolina, but nothing extreme like Buffalo. I was young. I dealt with it. It was a great time for me in Buffalo.
And for the 3 years from 74 through 76, you averaged over 30 a game. Now, mind you, NBA back in that time, there was no threes. You weren't built around spacing. Where did your offensive confidence come from?
Probably from high school. I was 6'8" in high school, and almost every team had a 6'8" guy. But when you had big guys back then, everybody would play a zone around you, and you could never get the ball. And when I was in the park, I used to shoot outside all the time. My idol growing up was Earl Monroe, because I used to see him at Winston-Salem State, which was 30 miles away, and they used to play the local HBCU school, North Carolina A&T, and my father used to take me to the games. And after I saw Earl Monroe, I used to go out in the park, and I'd be shooting, 20-foot jumpers all day long, shooting. And my game just evolved like that, and my high school coach, he didn't put me in a box, you got to be, you're 6'8", you got to be beside the lane. He let me go outside because, of course, I was making shots then. And, I didn't think about, stretch 4, stretch 5. That's the name that came later on. But, when I look at it, I was probably, the first stretch 4, stretch 5 in the NBA. And that's because of all the jump shots and admiring Earl Monroe, practicing outside shots when I was growing up.
I loved Earl the Pearl Monroe.
Yeah, fast forward a few years later, you played with Monroe back with the
Yes.
Knicks. What's that like? What was it like getting to know him and playing with him?
That was, I told him my story. I told him I used to see him play at North Carolina A&T when they used to play. I remember when they were the first HBCU team that won the NCAA Division II title. I brought all these stories up. I told him how we used to go in the park and we'd be twirling and spinning like Earl the Pearl. And he got a chuckle out of that. We bonded. He was down there in Winston-Salem, and I grew up as a young boy in Greensboro, 30 miles away. So that kind of hooked us, together when I got with the Knicks. But it was a pleasure for me. I couldn't believe I was on the same team with my idol.
So you spend those early years in Buffalo with great success. And in fact, December of 1976, I believe you have a 42-point, 29 rebound game. And then 2 days later, they trade you to the Knicks. What happened?
Well, that was a time in the NBA. I was in the last year of my contract, and they didn't know what compensation was going to be. And there was some other factors. We had a new partial owner in John Y. Brown, who came from the Kentucky Colonels of the ABA, and some weird stuff happened. I scoring championship, and he came in as partial owner, and he told me, he sat me down, he said, look, I don't want you playing 40 minutes a game anymore. We're gonna tap down your minutes. And when I heard that, I wasn't stupid. I knew what they were trying to do. They were trying to lower my production, because if they kept me, the guy didn't want to pay me. This is one of the differences from yesterday's game and today's game. We had to fight for our contracts. Here I am, I'm averaging 30 some points a game every year, and I got to fight for a contract. Now these guys, you got guys averaging 5 and 10 points a game, and they're getting $20 million. But that's the difference in the game now. So they started messing with my playing time, and I couldn't understand the coach, because who was Tate's Lock. I'm like, I didn't say anything to him, but I said, you messing with your future as a coach. You're gonna cut back my playing time and everything, because my 30 points was needed for us to win. We were in the conference with the Washington Bullets and the Boston Celtics, who were always strong, and we were trying to keep up with them. We were either in second or third place, and you're going to cut my minutes back. But I guess he couldn't do anything. He had his instructions from the owner. And I kind of remember that 42-point game you're talking about. You're right. I had this great game, and 2 days later, I was traded, and I think they got 2 draft picks. I'm not sure. John Gianelli. I can't even remember all of it. But I got traded to the Knicks, and that's when it finally hit me that this is business. Mm-hmm. And I said to myself then, as a young player, I must have been about 25, 26, I said, what can I do? Because I love being in Buffalo. I said, what can I do to stay in the place? If I'm averaging 30 points a game and they trade me, what's this career going to be like? That's the question I was asking myself in my head.
Imagine a player today scoring 42 points and grabbing 29 rebounds in a game. He'd be all over social media, all over the outlets. He'd be in line for, $100 million contract. It's
absolutely
just
no. 100, but no. I look at Jason Tatum, 300 million.
Yeah.
100 million for somebody that's averaging 10 or 12 points a game.
But hey, I want to go backwards a little bit here, okay? So you grew up in North Carolina and you played basketball in high school, but weren't you a dual talent? Weren't you also part of the marching band playing the sax?
Yeah. I played the alto sax in the concert band and the marching band. I made all-state band, and once I left high school, I kind of put my alto sax down. My mother had me playing ever since from junior high school. I was in the junior high marching band, the high school marching band. We played halftime football games. We were invited to play at North Carolina A&T's homecoming, parades in Greensboro. I was all over the place.
So I assume, though, you played like during football season in the band, and then when basketball season started, you went to.
I had to. I was still taking band in school. That was a class I had to take every day. And then, we had, after the basketball season, our band, we had concerts that we had to play in, and I played in that, and I was good enough. Like I said, I made all-state band, and it was great.
Do you still play the sax?
Not as much. My wife bought me a tenor sax about 7-8 years ago, and I pick it up once in a while because I always wanted to play a tenor sax because I love the sound of a saxophone. My mother, she didn't get me a tenor because a tenor sax would cost too much back in the day. And the alto sax I got was a used alto sax. I didn't have a new one. I had a used one. But I always loved the tenor because when I started listening to music, I don't know if you guys remember Junior Walker and the All-Stars.
Yeah.
That was on Motown. I used to listen. That was one of the first 45s I ever got. It was by Junior Walker and the All-Stars. And I just loved the sound of a tenor sax. And she got me one from, for Christmas. And, once in a while I play it. I'm not as good as I used to. It's something you got to do every day. But I love music. And that's one of the instruments that I grew up playing.
How do you get to be part of the all-state marching band? How does that happen?
No, it's not. It's just all-state band.
Ah,
I guess it's your skill level from playing, and you playing in the orchestra and stuff like that. And they recognize I had a couple solos from in the orchestra and stuff, and the state, they recognize that, and I was selected all-state band.
nice. That must have made mom proud.
Yeah, it did.
Hey, Bob,
Yeah.
let's talk about that 1975 season. What did being named MVP, what did that mean to you personally at that stage of your career?
It was I felt relieved because this is what a lot of people don't realize. I came in second twice. When you came in second, it's like you're that close. What have I got to do? And you come back the next season, don't mean you're gonna have the same season that you had the year before. It's just like if you get to the finals, you don't know if you're gonna get to the finals again. Injuries could happen. They change personnel on the team. It's like my game got better when we got better players. My second year, the Braves, once they saw what I could do, my rookie year, they restructured the whole team. They brought in Jim McMillan from the Lakers, Garfield Hurd from the Chicago Bulls. Ernie D got drafted, who was the best passer in the league. That helped me, with my scoring and everything. And Jim and Garfield were great passers as forwards, and those guys looked for me. I mean, they made it easy for me, and I was lucky too. I stayed healthy, and but winning MVP, I mean, when you win that, that's one of the ultimate prize, other than winning an NBA championship.
You mentioned it briefly, Bob. Nowadays, you'd be a stretch four, a stretch five. Every team has one. They're
Yeah,
dying for big guys that can shoot. But
yeah,
then it was, oh, you're 6'10", go down on the block, big guy.
yeah,
Turn your back to the basket and we'll feed you. You must have been kind of lucky to have coaches who saw
yeah,
your talent. Tell me a
yeah.
bit about that opportunity that they gave you.
Well, it was Jack Ramsey. He was my first pro coach in Buffalo, and after that, nobody was going to change my game because that's why people wanted me. Red Holzman, Willis Reed, they knew what I could do because once we got good, we ended up torturing the Knicks every time we played them. Uh, then, let me see the other teams: Boston, Detroit, which those are two teams I wasn't really fond of. Uh, and getting to the Lakers, that a bunch of like-minded, very talented players. And that first year in LA, that was something too, winning a championship out there. But nobody, tried to change my game because they saw the shooting touch right from the beginning. That's what I did. If I had a bigger guy on me, I'd take him outside. If I had a smaller guy on me, I would post up. So I wasn't strictly stretch. I was inside too because, once the team's defensive strategy, they saw their bigs couldn't guard me. Sometimes they put the 6'3" to 6'7" forwards on me, and I would post them up and take advantage of them in that.
So getting that MVP and two runner-ups, did you feel you were the best offensive player in the league at that point?
Oh, no question. Along with Kareem, he had that unstoppable sky hook. But other than that, and I remember Rick Barry, me and Rick was battling for scoring supremacy a lot. Rick could score, but I knew I knew I was one of the top scorers in the league. And I don't know. I was talking to Dwayne Wade the other day, and I was telling him how so many times, I could have probably got 60 or 70 points, but the coaches would take you out with 8, 9 minutes to go in the game. I got 50, 51 or something, and they take you out of the game, and we talked about it because Dwayne, when I was coaching him, he had about 45 points with about 6 minutes to go. And Spoelstra asked me, should I take him out? And our other coach said, no, take him out. He might get hurt. And from my experience, I said, no. I said, a 50-point game, guys, remember, that's a milestone you want to do. Leave him in the game. And thank goodness Spoelstra listened to me over the other coach and left him in the game. And Dwayne remembered that, and he came over to me and he said, Bob, thank you. I mean, that was my 150-point game that he had because it was from my experience. When I see guys like Luka Doncic and Kobe had scored 81, David Thompson, George Gervin had scored all these points, I said, I had a chance to do that too, but I was always taken out of the game because they wanted to rest me. They wanted to save me. They didn't want me to get hurt. But, when you get to be an old man, you want to stick your chest out and say, yeah, I had a 70-point game, but it didn't happen that way.
You talk about guys that were big scorers. In your first year in the NBA, you played against the greatest, so to speak, in Wilt Chamberlain. What was it like to be on the same court and to play against Wilt?
That was, I had to hold my breath. I couldn't believe it. I think that was the year two that they won 33 in a row. That was I think it was Wilt's last year.
It was.
And my first year. And I couldn't believe it. I'd seen Wilt on TV, but I remember my father, I was in the 8th grade. He took me to the Greensboro Coliseum, and I saw a preseason game between the Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers, Wilt against Russell. And after I saw that game, it wasn't only Earl Monroe. When I saw those two giants of the game, I wanted to play basketball. And that last year, being on the court with Wilt was, and I think I think it's a highlight out here. They got me going to the basket on Wilt. And I remember switching hands because I was going up and he went up the block and I switched to my left hand and I made a basket on him. And you couldn't tell me nothing after that. I thought I was the man after I scored on Wilt Chamberlain. But it was such an honor to be out there. And not only Wilt, Jerry West was out there on the court. I mean, they had all the stars, the Lakers back then when I came in the league.
You had to reinvent yourself several times in your career. You begin as the big-time scorer in Buffalo, but then you get to the Lakers, and now you're coming off the bench, but you get to win 2 championships doing that.
Yeah.
Talk about the transition and then coming to the Lakers and experiencing those 2 championships.
Well, when they got me, of course, I was happy as I could be because I'd been on, after I got traded from New York, I was on 3 bad teams. I was on a bad Boston Celtic team, bad Detroit Piston team, and a bad New Jersey Net team. And I was coming off of injury, so nobody knew if I was going to be walking and playing again, but I was able to do that. And when I got there, I figured, once I get in shape, I would start. But that never happened. Of course, when you look back, you see the politics that was involved. It was considered Magic and Kareem's team. And when you've been in the league for 10 years, you kind of drop your ego a little bit, even though it was painful. I wasn't used to coming off the bench. And, a couple of times I couldn't perform up to my standards because it just messed with my head. I couldn't, because I was superior to the three players that were out there that they had tried. First it was Mark Landsberger, then Jim Brewer, then he decided on Kurt Rambis. And I wasn't playing a lot of minutes until we got to the playoffs. When we got to the playoffs, everything changed. I started playing a lot of minutes. And the one good thing that I'm happy that I had the sense enough not to bitch and moan about it. I never said a word. My wife at the time saw my frustration, but it was really tough because you get in for a couple of minutes. You wasn't starting. You get in for a couple of minutes, maybe 5 minutes, and before you know it, you're back out of the game. You could never get in the flow. When you're playing 40 minutes, you can, pace yourself a little bit, but that was the adjustment I had to make. I knew when I came in the game, I had to get going fast because no matter how I played, I was going to be substituted for, and I was not used to that. But hey, my 4 years, I dealt with it. I dealt with it.
And you won those championships, the feeling of winning the championship finally.
Yeah. And when I look back, I said probably that off and on coming back, we had the talent to win 4 straight championships. The 2 that we lost, to Philly and Boston, we had too many injuries. I was injured for those 83 and 84. James Worthy broke his leg. Norm Nixon had a shoulder separation. That was between the 3 of us. That's 50 points out of our lineup. And when we got there, Philly swept us because we just didn't have enough firepower. And then we didn't have enough firepower against the Celtics the following year because we had injuries again. I was injured again, pulled muscle. 85, everybody was healthy. And we ended up beating the Celtics. Lakers ended up beating the Celtics for the first time in their history. I think they had played the Celtics maybe seven times in the finals, 7, 8 times, and they lost every one of them. So that was a milestone for the Laker franchise right there, beating them in 85. And then I was gone. I think the Lakers, they ended up beating Boston again, I think in 87 or something like that. I can't remember the year.
You mentioned, though, those were Magic and Kareem's team, but you also didn't take a backseat to anyone. And I remember, I think Gary Vitti, the Lakers trainer, was telling a story on a plane where someone came up to you and said, "Hey, you're sitting in Kareem's seat." And you said, I'm not moving.
No. Hey, you know how many people have called me and asked me about that podcast? And I said, that podcast is exactly right. I don't think people realize the competition that me and Kareem had. Like, remember I told you earlier, I came in second place twice to Kareem in MVP voting. So, when I got to LA, I'm trying to be noticed and seen. And I was true to myself. I had been the man on all my teams, and the trainer had handed out the wrong tickets, and he gave me Kareem's seat. Well, I didn't know that was Kareem's seat, and I wasn't going to move. And we laughed about it this past weekend at Pat's statue unveiling. We talked about it, and we talked about the podcast and everything, and I told people, I talked to Kareem like that because me and Kareem were closer in age than Magic and Cooper. They were in reverence with Kareem. It was different with me. Kareem was about 3, 4, 5 years older than me, and I treated him, like, hey, you just one of the guys to me. And but that podcast you saw, that was absolutely true what happened. I told Kareem to go to the back.
You're on a very short list, Bob, that could do that.
Exactly. The only guy in basketball that could do that.
Yeah.
Now here you are with Kareem. You know, he's obviously one of the best in the game. Then all of a sudden you're playing with him. What was your relationship like prior to playing with Kareem, and then when you started to play with him?
Playing against him?
Yeah.
I wanted to kick his ass. I wanted to kick his ass because he was the best. If you're going to be known to be one of the best, you got to beat the best. And I knew that. So, I mean, it's not like we played each other a lot because I think Milwaukee was in the Western Conference. We was on a home and home basis. But I wanted to beat him. And I'm sure he wanted to beat me. Neither one of us could guard each other because, I mean, Kareem, once he gets you in the post, you know, that was the most unstoppable shot, that sky hook, in probably the history of the game. And when I got on offense, I took him outside and he could not stay with me. My stretch 5, stretch 4, jump shots, running on the fast break, he couldn't keep up with me. So it was a competitive thing between us. And once I got on the team with him, it was a sign of relief. I was like, first time in my career, I've got a true all-star, all-world center that I'm going to be playing beside. You should have seen, once I found out I signed with the Lakers, the smile on my face was from ear to ear, you know, being able to join up with somebody that was that good.
You know, Bob, the talk always is Michael and LeBron. Michael and LeBron. Who's the greatest? Who's the GOAT? Is Kareem overlooked in that regard? You mentioned the word
absolutely
unstoppable. He was unstoppable.
Not only Kareem, I don't understand why people don't talk about Wilt Chamberlain. Are you kidding me? He averaged 50 and 30. Are you kidding me? I mean, the guy was unstoppable. They changed the rule for guys like Wilt and Kareem. I mean, Kareem was dunking and stuff. They took the dunk out of college basketball when he was in school. Wilt was under the basket, blocking shots, everything. They widened the lane because of Wilt. These two guys, they changed rules in the game because of them, because they were so dominant. You know, I just don't get it. You know, people forget history. They don't talk, and it makes me angry too. I think I heard Walt Frazier say one time, how could you not talk about Wilt Chamberlain with 100 points in a game, average 50, 30, 10 blocks. That they weren't even taking block shot stats then. They don't telling how many shots he was blocking a game. You know, you got to put him in the conversation too. Absolutely.
We are talking with Bob McAdoo, 1975 MVP, on the cover of the March 8th, 1976 issue of Sports Illustrated, two-time NBA champion, not to mention all-state sax player back in North Carolina. He did it all.
Don't forget my 3 championships as an assistant coach too with the Heat.
There we go. 5-time NBA champion.
5 times was in the championship 9 times. I got a good percentage. I'm over 50%. I think of 50% because that was Dean Smith at Carolina. If you just shoot 50% from the field, he didn't run any plays for you. When I look at, I'm 5 for 9 in NBA championship series. That's over 50%. So I feel happy about that. And I got 2 European League championships, 3 Italian League championships. But I know people don't talk about the European leagues, but I had just as much fun and pleasure playing in Europe as I did in the NBA.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, let's talk about those championships, especially in LA. What was it like? You've been in the league now for 10 years, and you've seen the other people sipping the champagne and going crazy, and there you are. You mentioned it wasn't necessarily your team, but come playoff time, you were on the court. What was it
Yeah.
to finally win it all?
First, before I even get to that part, I finally got in a warm climate because I was in Buffalo. Let me think: New York, Boston, Detroit, New Jersey, and then I finally got to a warm climate. I used to love going to L.A., Golden State. What was the other? Phoenix Suns, the warm weather. I said, I'm finally, I've got some warm, the sun to hit my face all year long. That was the first right there. But getting to the Lakers, like I said, we had Kareem, Magic, Norm Nixon, Jamal Wilkes, Michael Cooper. I mean, I remember playing against these guys. These guys were so good, and I had a chance to play with them. And probably, when I think back, the only reason why I was able to get to the Lakers was because I played on those bad teams. I was coming back from an injury at the end of my contract. If I was still playing and averaging, you say between 25 and 30 a game, I probably would have never got with the Lakers because there'd have been too many teams trying to maneuver and get me. It was almost like the Lakers were taking a chance on me and my injury that I had. I had a bone spur that I was getting over, that got an operation for, and they didn't know for sure how I would be able to play. And then how they destroy your reputation when you're on a losing team, because I was the lead player, I was getting blamed for the losses and stuff. And it didn't have nothing to do with that. I mean, she always talking about a team game. One guy's doesn't make a difference. I mean, Mike, as great as Michael was, he had great players around him, all these teams, Bird, he had great players around him, other Hall of Fame players, Magic Hall of Fame players around him. You don't win or lose by yourself. So I had a reputation I had to deal with, from those losing teams in Boston and Detroit that I had to deal with,
You have been associated with some of the greatest as both a player and an assistant coach. Can you talk about, I don't even know how you can compare them. First of all, playing with Magic, who totally changed the whole game, a 6'9" power forward center playing point guard. And then when you're an assistant coach with the Heat, you get to coach LeBron in his prime, and you work with Pat Riley, who you just mentioned got his statue this weekend. I mean, talk about those three individuals, those greatness that you had to be associated with.
Well, LeBron he was a beast, 6'8", could run up and down the court like a deer. And the thing about it, I think he learned how to win big in Miami. When he first got there, he was deferring to Dwayne Wade. Dwayne was the one who had the ball in his hand at the end of the game. But he learned, I guess Dwayne kind of passed the baton to him and said, look, LeBron, this is your team. When he passed it to him, and before you know it, LeBron was getting the ball in his hands at the end of the game. But he was a physical specimen like you've never seen before. 6'8", could run like a deer, could shoot from the outside, athletic as hell. And then when I go to Magic, of course, 6'8", could play point guard. He could, before I got there, the game that the championship that they beat Philadelphia, they did it without Kareem because Kareem sprained his ankle. I think Magic had 42 points in that pivotal game, in Philly to win on Philly's court. But he could see the court. Him and Ernie DiGregorio were some of the best passers I've ever played with. If you're on the break, you better be looking at Magic because he'll hit you in the back of the head. He could see over all the defenders. That was his advantage too, because as a point guard at 6'9", he could see over all the defenders, and pinpoint. He was so unselfish. He got everybody involved in the game. That was Magic's strength right there. And then Pat Riley, what can I say? The statue is up this weekend. Pat, we all had talent, but Pat was the guy who got us all together, made us play to another level. All of us had a level to play at, but Pat got us to another level. He got us to where all of us wanted to go, and that was getting to the championship and playing in that last game of the year in June, being victorious the last game. And the thing about it, he brought it to both franchises. He had it in LA, of course, and he brought that same intensity to Miami. He let guys know, hey, you're just coming down here to be on South Beach. I'm down here to win. And lo and behold, in my years being here, I'm still here. He's won 3 championships down here in Miami. It's his intensity and his preparation that was so good that I remember being with Pat Riley.
So fire questions fly, lightning strikes as answers try. Buzzers ring, chaos in the air, trivia time, truth.
I need to set this up first. I don't know, did you ever watch the Showtime series, Rise of an NBA Dynasty, Winning Time, the whole Laker thing they did?
No, I didn't watch the whole thing.
Well, apparently there's an actor who had played some professional basketball named Omari Johnson who plays you in the series. I think he's in 3 of the episodes, which must be really weird.
He plays
to see
me?
someone play you. Yeah, he plays you.
Oh, okay.
You need to go check it out. I think it's only 3 of the episodes he's in, but I'd be curious your reaction to see someone playing you.
He's only 5'4", Bob.
No.
If he's 5'4", no way he could play me.
No, apparently this Omari Johnson played like European ball. He's played professional basketball, just not NBA. But I'd be curious. But here's my trivia question to you. True or false, the actor that plays Norm Nixon in the series is actually his son?
I'd say false.
Nope, it's true. Devon Nixon played his dad in the show.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I didn't know that. I didn't know, did his son play basketball?
Good question. I would imagine, he's got it in his genes.
Yeah. That don't mean nothing. You should see.
That's true.
You should see all the NBA fathers has got sons, and their sons are not following their footsteps.
Yeah, they're all playing the sax.
That's it.
But I think you need to watch the series. Go find it. I think it'd be on Paramount Plus just to get it'd probably be weird to see people that you played with being played by actors who are not the real people.
Yeah. Well, I heard some things about it, and I think I saw a little bit of it. And I had people come up to me and say, "Bob, did y'all do all that at halftime with girls?" And so I said, "Man, get out of here. That's fiction. You kidding with Pat Riley? We had no girls at no halftime. You get out of here."
It's dramatic license.
Yeah.
So, Bob, you had obviously, as we've talked about here, an amazing career ending with titles. But then it was all awarded to you. Back in September 29th of 2000, you're elected to the Hall of Fame. That's the enshrinement ceremony. What was that call like to find out you were being inducted into the Hall?
That was great because, when you're in the Hall, that your name is out there forever. You're in there with, some of the greatest players that have ever played the game. My family, it was a proud moment for me because a lot of my family was there. My college coach, Dean Smith, my high school coach was there. It was just a fabulous weekend. and just it was my first time being up there in Springfield, and I went through the hall and I'm looking at all the players, Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Sam Jones, all these guys that were the greatest, while I was a middle school kid watching these guys on TV, just being able to be, I never even dreamed of something like that. It was just incredible for me.
One of those guys, Bob, you mentioned him earlier, was Jerry West. Jerry traded for you. He's the one that saw what you could bring to those Laker championship teams. What did it mean to you to be brought in to this team by Jerry, and how much respect did you have for him?
Let me tell you, I first met Jerry. I was a senior in high school, and he came to North Carolina to do a basketball camp. I can't remember exactly where it was. And we had a 5-on-5 scrimmage, and he played in that scrimmage at a basketball camp. And he came up to me afterwards, and he said, "Son, you got the weirdest shot I have ever seen, but don't you change it, because you make the shot." And I never forgot that. And it's just, Jerry I think he's had his eye on me for a while. He just couldn't get to me because I was going to be, when you one of the first picks, you're going to be on the last place. It ended up being an expansion team with Buffalo. But Jerry's had a lot of respect for me. His family's had a lot of respect for me. I was so proud. His son called me and asked me to be on stage for his, I don't know, they put him in as a contributor. He made it as a player, and he made it as an executive. And his son wanted me. He told me his father just loved me as a player and a person. And it just hit me in the heart that his son wanted me to be on stage, at the Hall of Fame. But a guy like that, the what is it? They call him the emblem of the NBA.
Logo.
The logo, yeah, the logo. That's right. I said the emblem, the logo. The logo when he and he is known. You see all the teams he put together. He brought Kareem. He got Shaq out there. He got traded for Kobe. He was a mastermind as an executive. And when he has you in mind, I used to see him when I got out of coaching and got into scouting. I'd see him on the road sometimes, and he just greeted me. He had a smile on his face. I had a smile on my face. We just hooked up some kind of way. We just had great rapport with each other, Jerry West.
Bob, when we do this show, there's a lot of guys that we look forward to, but I can say honestly that the thrill of having you on the show, when I told Bill, he was jumping,
Yeah.
there, so we can't thank you enough for joining us today. Two-time NBA champion, MVP, one of the purest scorers this game has ever seen, from freezing his butt off in Buffalo to sipping champagne in Southern California. Just as smooth as they can be. Bob, thanks for your time. An absolute honor.
Thank
Woo!
you.
No
Thank
question.
you. Thanks for having me.
Rookie cards of baseball, basketball, and football stars are iconic pieces of American history, and they have been outstanding investments over the last 50 years. Now, key issues of Sports Illustrated, professionally graded and encapsulated by CGC, have emerged as an exciting alternative to trading cards. ThePit.com is the leading online exchange for investment-grade sports magazines. General Manager Mark Humphreys offers Sports Illustrated first cover editions featuring stars like Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Derek Jeter, Ken Griffey Jr., and so many more. Mark Humphreys, the CEO of ThePit.com, is here now. And Mark, tell me about the March 8th, 1976 issue with one of the greatest scorers in NBA history, whom we just spoke with, Bob McAdoo, on the cover.
Well, I remember Bob McAdoo as a name from the late 70s and early 80s when I first became fascinated with professional basketball. The Lakers were my team. McAdoo would later on join the Lakers, but on the cover of the March 1976 issue, he's pictured with the team for which he made the greatest splash. The Braves, were they?
Buffalo Braves. Yep.
Buffalo Braves. And they were a journeyman team. They wandered the country. I think they ended up in San Diego as the Clippers.
Right.
But McAdoo, when I became reacquainted with his accomplishments in preparation for this podcast, I was really blown away. I knew he was a scoring champion. I thought maybe he had won 2 scoring titles, but in fact, he won 3 scoring titles after being named Rookie of the Year in 1973. And he was pretty young, too, because apparently he only spent 1 year at the University of North Carolina and then was able to go into the NBA draft through a hardship clause, one of the first to use that. So Rookie of the Year in 73, and then 3 consecutive scoring titles, 74, 75, and 76. MVP in the 74-75 season. And I believe that was the season where he became the last NBA player to average 30 points and 15 rebounds per game in a season. Really tremendous accomplishments. And that was his statistical peak. The Braves were a bad team when he joined them. They became a little better later. They had limited success in the playoffs. I imagine that McAdoo got so many touches because partly because they were a subpar team for part of that time. But his accomplishments are remarkable. And I put him in the class with David Thompson, another guy of that era whose achievements aren't as appreciated by modern basketball fans because so many others have come since then, and because his championship years with the Lakers were after his statistical peak. Several of these issues have been graded, I believe, without having checked, that it's McAdoo's only cover on Sports Illustrated. So it makes it more desirable. There are people who would want to get this autographed, people who collect the greatest NBA players of all time, the scoring champions and so forth. But to date, there have been only 3 graded by CGC, newsstand editions. And I didn't see any data, sales data that was particularly noteworthy. I think a really nice Bob McAdoo newsstand edition graded by CGC in the 8.5 or 9 range would go for a couple $100, and an autographed edition would probably add another $100 or $200 to the collector value.
Yes, Mark, an underrated player, and it doesn't surprise me that it's an undervalued magazine. Thank you. Only thepit.com offers competitive buy now and sell now quotes on graded magazines online, as well as many of the most popular modern PSA graded rookie cards, including Shohei Ohtani, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Nikola Jokic, and Steph Curry. Trade sports stars like stocks at thepit.com. All right, let's talk a little more college hoops. And Mark, another UNC great had a big game for the Tar Heels.
Yes, and a former guest on Past Our Prime, Phil Ford, big star from North Carolina, okay? So North Carolina State tries to take advantage of Phil. He keeps fouling him because he had been having problems sinking free throws. But Ford all of a sudden learned that he had been jumping when he made the shots, and that's why he was missing a lot of them. So he made sure to keep his feet planted. And so what did he do? He had 16 free throw attempts in the game. He made all 16, and Carolina won by 12 to sew up the ACC crown.
Wow, that's a great little tidbit.
Yeah.
Keep your feet on the ground and reach for the stars.
There you go. Hey, some show should use that as their theme.
Bill, if you had told me like when we were going to start this show, like at some point you'll have both Phil Ford and Bob McAdoo as guests, I would have thought you were crazy.
Yep. And then you throw in Rick Barry and all the other ones. Dang.
All right, let's move on to something, I know, which is just clear and dear to all three of us, but Billy, the sport of fencing really is something that is big in your life.
It is. I've never fenced in my life, but it's very popular. And I watched the Three Musketeers or the Four Musketeers. But we're talking about Peter Westbrook, who could have been a musketeer. I'm just going to give his stats. Peter Westbrook was a 13-time he was in 13 U.S. National Saber Championships. He was a 6-time Olympian. He was a bronze medalist in the Olympics of '84. He won Pan American golds. He was the 1992 closing Olympic ceremony flag bearer. He's one of the most decorated American fencers ever. I had never heard of him.
Wow.
It's just but when you look at someone's resume, obviously, it wasn't in my wheelhouse, but man, how impressive was this guy? And he recently passed away.
Yeah. I mean, I used to love swashbuckler movies. And my big beef was, if you look at the old classics from the 30s and 40s, Errol Flynn, Tyrone Power, they're always winning the sword fight. And who's dying in all these sword fights? Basil Rathbone, who was an actor best known for playing Sherlock Holmes. But Basil Rathbone was apparently a fencing champion in the British Army. So he was actually the best swordsman of any actor in Hollywood, but they kept killing him in all the damn movies he was in. And it's got to bruise his ego. But
that is so perfect, because Bill and I were just talking that we don't get Basil Rathbone in the show often enough.
I'm glad that you didn't tell Mark, did you, Scott?
No,
I can't, because we were just discussing that yesterday, how we've got to work him in to a couple more shows.
Where is Basil when you need him? And
yes,
boom, he just popped
if you guys watch the Olympics, the fencing was unbelievably fun to watch. I have no idea how it's done and what they do, but they are so fast.
Because I always love to bring the show down, I do have something about Peter that's not a very happy story.
Okay.
So his mom, who was 66 years old when she died. So in December of 1993, she's on a Newark bus and she offers some advice, friendly advice to this young guy, big guy, bruiser. And something about and who he was with, this woman he was with regard to the young child they were traveling with. Well, the woman becomes really angry and curses her and tells her to mind her own business, and then starts hitting and kicking her and killed her.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. The attacker pleaded guilty to aggravated manslaughter and was sentenced to 16 years in prison.
Man.
Where is Basil Rathbone?
Rathbone when you need him. I know, it's like the same thing.
And again, for people who don't know who Basil Rathbone is, go look up Sherlock Holmes in the 30s and 40s, or Son of Frankenstein, where he actually was a good guy in that movie.
Yeah.
The last movie with Boris Karloff, or any of the swashbuckler films.
Yeah.
And he'll say to you that Tyrone Power was a much better fencer and athlete than Errol Flynn.
He won't say anything to me now.
And for all those 95-year-olds out there, you get what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we do. Errol Flynn was pretty good too.
Yeah. Well, you can't talk fencing on this show and ignore harness racing.
No. Come on. Mark, a few months ago in one of our shows, he just went off on Billy Houghton. He did a big story about how one of the greatest harness racers ever. But Billy does have a son. His name's Peter. And in the 1976 Kentucky Futurity, Peter Houghton spoiled his father's Triple Crown bid by nosing him out at the finish line. And Peter, who looked to be on pace to surpass his father in wins and earnings, let's bring it down, died in a car wreck at the age of 25 before he was able to do all that.
We are depressing today, aren't we?
And did you know that Basil Rathbone was in Son of Billy Houghton?
He was, exactly. and Boris Karloff was one of the pallbearers.
He played the horse.
Oh my God.
All right, let's talk a little baseball, that other sport that every once in a while gets into this magazine. What's the pitch? A labor dispute between MLB players and owners delayed spring training. What? That would kill me. Centered on the reverse clause after arbitrator Peter Seitz ruled in favor of Andy Messersmith, allowing him to become a free agent after playing out his option year, a decision upheld in court and threatening baseball's traditional system, binding players to teams. I find the funniest thing about this is that this is almost a throwaway little article in the magazine. So they obviously did not have an idea that this was as big a moment, not just in baseball, but in sports that we have seen in the history of sport. It changed everything, Mark.
Yep. And there's a nice picture of Marvin Miller there, who really was the forefather of all this, who speared this movement on. And back then in 1976, if you told someone that may make 500 million, 600 million over the life of a contract, they think you're crazy, because the owners at that time didn't have that kind of money. Their franchises weren't worth half of that, a tenth of that.
No.
So I mean, it's absolutely crazy. The game, I remember, I want to say it was like 1990, 91. I remember hearing a story how Will Clark had signed a new contract with the San Francisco Giants. Get this, it was a 4-year deal worth $16 million. That's $4 million a year. I said, oh my God, that's insane. What is going on with these people? They are going to bankrupt baseball.
Yeah. And now they look at Shohei and whatever Tucker's deal and laugh.
But
guys won't even accept Will Clark's contract nowadays. So we're underpaid.
Some owners privately admit the reverse clause is outdated, with figures like next week's cover man Bill Veeck arguing baseball can survive without it, though proposed compromise includes service time limits or salary controls to prevent bidding wars.
Yeah.
Despite rhetoric about principle and player freedom, the core issue is financial, salaries, leverage, and control of the marketplace, proving that, as history suggests, when both sides claim it's not about the money, it's
always about the money.
Yeah.
Always.
Yep.
Always. Nothing else matters.
It's really going to be interesting in 27, because you're going to have a lot of the owners pitted against other owners, like the Dodgers versus
this
these
is
lower.
This is not going to be a players versus owners only fight. It is going to be a top 5 teams versus the other 27 teams ownerships.
Okay, who wins?
Who wins?
What do you think? Owners win, players win.
If I had to guess, Billy, judging by the 50 years of labor agreements, the players will win.
Yeah, that's my thought.
That union has proven to be unbreakable.
And they've got some sort of cash thing where they've taken like a lot of money.
Both have.
Like billion.
Both sides have done that. Both sides have taken out billions of dollars to get through this, which is why I'm scared for the season next year.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's as sad as, old mom.
But you know what I was
really been low. We've been low here, man.
TV radio, 1976, Billie Jean King was the highest paid woman on sports TV. Unfortunately, you didn't get to see her very much. Though King brought star power and credibility, ABC used her sparingly, mostly on women's tennis and superstar events. So Billy, they have Billie Jean on, but they don't really have Billie Jean on.
No, and she was frustrated by that. She wanted more exposure, but she felt she was getting limited exposure on ABC because she believed she was being hired for her name only. That sounds about right.
Well, that's definitely, that's what they did back then, is they hired the big name. There were times like with Monday Night Baseball where they would use Tom Seaver as soon as the Mets season was over.
That's right.
They were like still active players when they had Palmer and Seaver as guys. So producer Dawn Ohlmeyer believed King's strength was her authenticity and rapport with women athletes, especially in tennis. I don't think she really became a great announcer until she went to HBO and was part of their tennis
Yep.
coverage for years and years and years, and really did. She was very comfortable in front of the camera, very telegenic, and but
Yeah, it
yeah,
was after 83 they said she really started finding her way behind the mic, but she wasn't playing anymore. So she could focus on that.
put down by a topspin. What the heck is this all about, Billy?
It's about tabletop tennis, or we know ping pong. It's about Dick Miles. He was one of the most decorated U.S. ping pong or tabletop players in the world. But he went to Japan as sort of like, hey, let's go over there and show them what we can do. But the people brought out the Japanese brought out some little ballerinas, and they came out and smoked him. He had said, he goes, as the ball approached, I drew back my arm to do what I've done a zillion times before, to do what I always do against a new opponent, show him who's boss on the very first point. But he timed her forehand, then he projected in his mind my downward slice through the ball, mean and vicious, my zillionth net skimming chop, whose backspin would cause the ballerina, as it had caused a zillion he-men before her, to dribble the ball feebly into the net. That's not true. She served it back. He hit it up in the ceiling because they had some sort of drop shot, like a loop shot they thought they did, that he couldn't hit it. Every time he hit it, it went up top. It went up 15 feet straight up to the ceiling. And he was really humbled, he said.
I loved ping pong as a kid.
Me too. This is one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I played defense. I was a really good defensive player. I'd force you into making a mistake. I'd return everything you hit, though I never played like these guys did, or
No.
like in the movie Marty Supreme, where they're just like 10 feet from like
Yeah,
the
it's
ping pong
funny.
surface, and they're just
The-
slamming the thing.
The one video that, or the two videos that like I can never pass up are like Tommy Hearns and
Me too.
Marvis
Yeah.
Hagler boxing, and then like incredible ping pong points.
Yep. Because their hands and the speed of that ball, and they're whamming, slamming it down, and the guys are able to bring it back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because back when we played, if some guy got a slam, that was the point. It was over.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, let's get going. This is going long. 3-ring circus in a garden. Indoor track isn't just a meet, it's a 3-ring circus at the 1976 AAU indoors in Madison Square Garden. And Billy, you can't get enough of your Filbert Baye.
No, he won the mile in 3:56.1. He won it going away, but he's always winning a lot of these going away because he starts fast and is usually in front.
And on the woman's side, Jan Merrill stole the show. Look at this. She wins the 2-mile in 9:59.6. And then 30 minutes later, she wins the mile at 4:38.5. I mean, to win both is impressive. To do it both in a 45-minute span is incredible. So the face of pain. Pain is the constant, unspoken companion of pro athletes, from shattered knees to torn ligaments, and it often defines careers more than statistics ever could. Billy, tell me real quickly about a guy I had never heard of, Taz Anderson, who was 55, or a former NFL athlete, and he was hoping he wouldn't be in a wheelchair by the age of 55 because of all the stuff he had to go through.
He said he went over the middle to catch a pass. The safety's headgear hit my right knee. It felt like nothing I could ever explain. The pain was like what it must have felt like to have your leg amputated. It was like somebody had cut my leg off at the knee. He tried to play the next games with cortisone and Novocaine and had the knee drained, but one day he just collapsed getting out of bed. And he said there was one treatment called the fluoroscope that hurt so much. I don't know, this sounds very painful. They blow your knee up with air, then force the dye into it. Said it was one of the most painful things he'd ever been through.
Uh,
Oh,
I've had dye shot in my body. It's not fun. Let me tell you.
No, I would not imagine that something is gone wrong when that's happening.
yes, but I'm saying, but these guys, and you look at Merlin Olsen, the things he went through, Chuck Wepner, I mean, they still either get back in the ring, back on the football field. I remember Jeremy Roenick when he was with the Blackhawks. He was shoved when he was skating by the boards fast. A guy shoved him and he broke his jaw in like 6 different places. He now has a titanium jaw, but he came out for the next period.
You know, back then, 50, 60, 70 years ago, you either played with pain. Now, I'm not saying players today don't play with pain. They obviously do, but there are so many ways now that they can remedy that. Back then, it was like, well, you can either not play or you can play with pain, and you'll probably be in pain for the rest of your life. But crazy times. And this is playing with pain. These are not like injuries like Napoleon Kaufman, Billy, that, I mean,
Yeah.
he had an injury and basically his career ended.
Yeah, his knee went. I remember being at CBS that night, and he went up the middle or took a handoff, and they hit him in his knee, and his knee went backwards. Like his leg went front and his knee went to the back. And I think we talked about it, Scott. I don't look at those replays.
No.
Like once I see it
No.
once, I know they want to show from 10 different angles. There was a guy in Louisville in the NCAA tournament that ripped his leg up, and I think Jason Kendall's going into home plate, his ankle
yeah.
turned the other way. Robin Ventura, same deal. I don't look at them. I find it to be gruesome, but they happen all the time and every year.
And, and then there's the Joe Theismann, injury where, Ross
Oh, I've
Taylor
never
breaks
seen
his
that.
leg. And it's in the opening scene of The Blind Side too. They'll show it.
Yeah, I've
But
never seen it.
the other thing that's very fascinating about the human body is there's like a 1 or 2 second delay. So when you break something, you don't feel the pain instantaneously. There's like 1 or 2 seconds delay till it gets to your brain, and then you're like,
Can I follow that up, Mark? I will tell you
yeah.
a true story. When I got in a car wreck in '88, the engine came up through my car and it broke my leg in half and turned it around. You don't know that. Like I sat on the front seat and I ended up on the passenger side. Half my body ended up on the passenger side of the car. And you're at that moment, your leg's it's not in my body. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at it and I thought, I think I can get out of here. And I lifted up, my leg just fell. So I put it back in.
Oh
But you
my
don't
God.
feel anything.
Oh,
I just grabbed my ankle,
it's
turned it around, and pushed it back in. But you
oh my
don't feel
God.
anything until about 20 minutes later. Even when they carried me to the curb and laid me down, I felt a little pain. I said, man, my leg hurts a little bit. But then when you get in the ambulance and you start coming down from that adrenaline, yeah, it doesn't. When you first break something,
Yeah.
you don't, it's not like oh my God, that hurts. You're like, your body's still repairing it or repairing your
Yeah.
system, still like giving you that nulling, that pain nuller. Oh, but yeah, you finally feel it.
Oh my
Well,
God.
this episode is disgusting.
It really is. Depressing.
We just need, to find some poor kid that drowned in a pool, and we'll have touched everything. So,
Oh my
While his
God.
mother watched. Yeah, that's
yeah.
fair.
Mark, make us laugh, will you? Give us a
Sorry.
or something.
Yeah, so I love to do my ads, and one of my favorite ads of all time was Benson and Hedges cigarettes. Well, this ad in the paper, and Bill will really appreciate it.
Mhm.
Guy has got a cigarette. He's climbing a ladder on a tree.
That's
The
fair.
cigarette breaks to the top to rescue a cat in the
Oh
tree.
God.
And Bill remembers the famous story when my cat Fluffy was terrorizing this other cat who
Yeah.
stayed on the top of a tree and
Yeah.
refused to move. And I was so worried I called the fire department. And then what happened, Bill?
Well, you didn't tell him the whole story. You called the fire department and then went and took a shower. So the fire department shows up and they go, "What's the problem?" I said, "There's a cat in the tree. My friend's scared about the cat." He goes, "So you called us?" Yeah. And he goes, "Never once in my time as a fireman have I ever seen a cat skeleton in a tree. If they can get up, they can get down." So the fireman gives me a lecture. He leaves. Mark comes down and goes, "So what happened?" Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
Oh.
thanks.
And you know what? If Fluffy's on top of something, like there's a shed in the
Yeah,
back she gets on top of, you figure out your way down. You
you
do
do, but not for Mark.
it.
Fire department,
Oh,
4 firemen guys walking through with all their equipment. There's me standing in the backyard going, "Yeah, there's a cat up there."
yeah, yeah. And they're
Yeah,
going, man, that Bill dude over there, what an idiot. Why
what
didn't
an
And
he
idiot.
call us?
Mark comes out and goes, "What are you guys doing here?"
Exactly. Exactly. Left me hanging. I'm like, okay, well, I guess sorry.
Like the
My
cat
bad.
left you hanging.
For the record, get me Maloney. Mahoney. Bill, what you got?
Well, I'm gonna do Dan Maloney repeatedly punching Brian Glennie. No, I'm not. You already did that at the beginning of the show. We know that. He was
Okay.
acquitted.
My
He was
bad.
acquitted.
Gotcha. Nice. All right. Well, we haven't done this one, Mark.
Yeah, well, in gymnastics, there's this talk of this 14-year-old European champion. She wins the all-around title. She's from Romania. They defeat the US. It's an Olympic qualifying event. What's her name? Nadia Comaneci,
Ooh.
who just a few months later would have that perfect score in the 76 Summer Olympics.
Yeah, think of that. She goes from a 14-year-old nobody has heard of to 4 months later, she's as well-known an athlete in the entire world almost instantaneously.
Then she married the gymnast, Bart Connor, was it?
She's the first gymnast to ever be awarded a perfect score at
That's
the
right.
Olympics.
I remember that.
These are the faces in the
Mark?
crowd.
I'm going to talk about Archie Talley, a senior at Salem, West Virginia College, set an NAIA record 1,329 points this season, 4-year total of 3,720 points, which places him among the greats, like Pete Maravich. So Talley really, he played a little bit, his college was really his high point. But what he did after college, I think, was so fascinating. And by the way, he's one of the few players that scored 100 points in a single game. But he's now a motivational speaker. So, and hell, I would listen to a guy who said I scored 100 points in a game.
Sure.
So he gives pep talks to kids and young people at corporate events. Since 1984, he's been doing that.
Billy, nothing, no faces in the crowd for you?
No, none for me today.
All right, then let's get to someone who's pissed off about something.
The 19th hole is open for law.
Okay, this from Terry Thomas from Gainesville, Florida. He says, good judgment, S.I. Dorothy Hamill dazzles the world with elegance on ice. Rosie Mittermeier charms Innsbruck to its knees with her golden smile. And you put a street hockey player on the cover.
Oh, the carnage.
Yes, everyone was up in arms over that.
I mean,
Still him.
Bobby Clark on the cover when you could have had someone that won gold. Unbelievable.
And he's a street hockey player now.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Hey, I got one from Ruth Hubbs Kenny. I was amazed to read in your Olympic preview that Sheila Young skates without socks. That must mean she simultaneously experiences, here you go, Mark, you ready? The ecstasy of victory and the agony of defeat. All right, that'll do it for this week. March of 76 had everything. Bob McAdoo lightened up the NBA. Mount Everest turning into a $150,000 bucket list item. Honest pleasure, leaving them all in the dirt. Baseball fighting over free agency, and a 14-year-old Nadia Comaneci just getting started. From mountaintops to Madison Square Garden, from the faces of pain to the business of the game, that's why we go back. For Mark Hoffman, for Bill Mahoney, I'm Scott Johnston, and we are, go Bill, who are we?
Past our prime.